Good evening, everyone. Here is Angy Stewart from Miami InnerLight, directly from Facebook Live of Kardec Radio. And just a reminder, if you have a friend that does not use Facebook, but would be interested in participating of the studies or listening to all the interviews and many different book studies, please tell your friend to visit kardecradio.com. There, they can listen to everything that was already recorded, and then they can enjoy of all these studies, even if they don't have Facebook. And before we start our study of tonight, I have two reminders. The first one, you probably already know, is about our first picnic with the gospel. It will be happening here in Miami, in the Brickell area, in a beautiful park called Alice Wainwright. It's on Brickell Avenue, right next to the entrance of the Key Biscayne Island. If you know anyone that would be interested in joining, please let them know, and they can email me, they can write me on Facebook, and it will be a pleasure to have new people with us. The second reminder is that we have another group called the Volunteers of Love. This group is all about charity. And we try every month or 2 months to help a different charitable cause. And the charitable cause of this month is to help a family that's in big distress in Brazil, in the state of Espírito Santo. They live in a very small city, and their house is collapsing. So we got together to put this beautiful box where there are 8 items in the box, pieces of clothes, a beautiful purse, some jewelry, in the amount of $250. So we are selling raffles. One raffle is $10. You know, $10 is so little for us, but a lot of people contributing with $10 can do a lot of good miracles. And that's exactly what we are hoping for, a good miracle to this couple, to Renata and her husband, Paulo. Paulo is suffering from cancer. His father lives with them. He's 94 years old. He's bedridden. They have 2 kids. And Renata has 3 jobs that she is struggling to be able to pay for food. Imagine to move out of this house. So I said this because during the picnic of Miami InnerLight on April 22nd, we will do the raffle live, and we will discover who is the lucky winner of this beautiful box in the value of $250. So if you know anyone that would like to participate, you can purchase the raffles online. It's very easy. And Volunteers of Love is the name of our group. Thank you so much, and God bless all the charitable souls. And now, let's connect with our guardian angels, with the spirits that are always trying to protect the good causes. And if you like, as I always like to remember, we like to put some water so the enlightened spirits can bless it and help us to have this good medication throughout the week. So please join me with this very short prayer to connect us. Almighty God, our dear brother Jesus, all the good spirits that are with us right now, please stay with us, protect us, guard us, enlighten us throughout the study we are going to be doing tonight. Help all of us to be able to connect, to understand what we are going to be talking, to be able to do good questions, to enlighten our thoughts, and most of all, to learn and practice what we will be studying tonight. Please send all this loving energy to our friends who couldn't be here, but that might be listening to this talk later on. Thank you so much, and so be it. Very good. Very good, my friends. Let me just say hello to the ones who arrived here already. Let me see. I can go back so much, but I see Teresa. Hey, Teresa. Sol, Carla, Ubiratã, Sevilha. Hello, Ubiratã. Nice to meet you. Vanessa, my dear, you joined too. And Katy Liu, I'm so happy we're able to manage this time. This is wonderful. You got it. Very good, my friends. So let's go. We always start with the beautiful book, Thought and Life. And today is chapter 16, The Vocation. If you don't have the book, please visit Miami InnerLight. You can go to photos and you will see the pages of the book there today. Chapter 16, page 63. So I will read and then we can make comments. You guys can make questions and comments too. The vocation. Our current vocation reflects all of the experiences of our past lives. While many times we may start as beginners in one activity or another, owing to advancement of technology and the new methods of work it requires, we generally pick up where we had left off in order to continue a certain task or to correct our own personal ways. In any event, a professional title is a letter of credit we receive to help us produce ennobling reflexes in our lives. The administrator, the judge, the professor, the doctor, the artist, the sailor, the worker, and the farmer are all perfectly portrayed in the parable of the talents, in which the Divine Master invites us to consider the professional responsibilities on loan to us by infinite goodness. Each spirit, whatever its position, receives a certain share of resources in order to receive it, in order to serve in and ennoble the divine work. In most cases, however, we use the Lord's concessions in our egotistical thoughts with the absurd notion that we can place ourselves above God. Then we face the ill effects of our conduct when our body reaches the end of its journey. This leads us to the painful compulsion to return for a new beginning, where the principles of reincarnation will determine our values with precision. And as each professional area has its various activities, so the judge, who created mental reflexes of cruelty by persecuting innocent people, usually returns to the same court in which he will be unjustly condemned to suffer the punishment he once inflicted upon his defenseless victims. The derelict doctor returns to the hospital where he harmed as a simple nursing assistant who struggles and makes sacrifices to barely earn a living. The rich farmer who took advantage of the humble employees who were provided by heaven to till his fields will return to the land he had deceitfully exploited as a poor laborer, submitting to the same harsh rules by which he had destroyed the hopes of others. Likewise, distinguished artists who, in whose intellect led them to dissolute excesses, reappear in the world as anonymous painters or actors on a stage, laboring for a long time under great inhibitions as third-class performers. Women of high society who yield to vice and dissipation, forgetting to fulfill their highest duties, often come back to the homes where they offended as very humble maids, in order to earn again the respectable title of a marriage and motherhood. Wow. When these people return, they all usually experience injustice and hostility, difficulties and disappointments. Wherever they go, they see their high aspirations painfully dashed, for the law dictates that we must collect the fruits of our actions, which we had implanted in the souls of others. This will correct the source of our emotions and ideas, so that we may become aligned to the positive current that flows from God and permeates the entire universe as it returns to God. Wow. This is a very, very strong text. And as you can see, we always say that, but let's remind again, there are no coincidences. No coincidence. Never. There are never coincidences. Every single thing has a purpose. Everything that we see and we imagine, oh, there's such an injustice in this situation. No, that's injustice for us, that we are seeing this with the physical eyes of one life. But we know we don't have one life. We have many, hundreds, thousands. It depends. And in all those lives, we did good things, but we also did bad things. We committed mistakes. So in the text here, let me see what it says. The last paragraph, when it says, they see their high aspirations painfully dashed, for the law dictates that we must collect the fruits of our actions. So the law dictates. Who wrote this law? Which law is that? Is God's law? Yes, it's God's law, but the God's law is written in our conscience. So when we discarnate, as I always say, we wake up and we will see the real life, the spiritual life, and soon, as we always hear in many books, we will see that little movie of our past life that will show all the good things we did, the people we love, but it also will show some mistakes we did, the things we shouldn't have done, and we will see that. And the images will penetrate our souls, and we will have that desire of coming back to repair our mistakes. And this will happen to everyone. So it's better for us to have less mistakes, less problems, so we have less things to repair. But let's start from the beginning of the text. Oh my God, Elsa! Wow, my dear Elsa! I'm so happy to see you here. I was in London when I purchased this beautiful book. Elsa sold all those books and I brought to the United States, and we sold all those books to our friends who are actually in the class with us tonight. Very good to see you here, Elsa. I will see you in London next month when I join you there. So let's see whom else arrived. Ceissa, hello Ceissa, nice to see you. Nora Brasil. Raul Neto, hello Raul, welcome. Daniela Stefanelli, hey my friend. Juanita Santos, welcome Juanita, very good. Watching from Singapore, fantastic. Singapore, wonderful. So my friends, let's go from the beginning. And please, if you have any comments, any questions, just write there, and I will try to answer the best way possible, and we can read together. So right in the beginning of the paragraph here, we can see that Emmanuel mentions that new methods of works, no, here, we generally pick up where we had left off in order to continue a certain task or to correct our personal ways. So this is what? We reincarnate, we come back, we return, and whatever we hadn't finished well, or whatever we want to repair, we will want to do it again. We will want to do it over. And this is the same logic that there are that amazing musicians, for example, little kids that can play a piano. They never had a piano, and somebody gives a piano, they can play it magically. So this is the same thing. They picked up from where they had finished. So maybe they were beautiful pianists and they returned and they remember everything. So for them, it's just like automatic. Brrr, they picked up and it's fast and good. But as we read also, we maybe have done something wrong with that. Like, for example, when we are very good at something, sometimes we have the bad tendency of showing off, you know, having that proud, like, oh, I'm much better than him or than her. So it's almost like a gift that we have, we kind of misuse it. And this is what we have to police ourselves. Because when we have something good, when we have a gift, we should actually use it to help others that don't know so well as we know, so we can help others to know, to learn too. So this is how we have to do good use of whatever beautiful thing we have or we are developing. So we have to be very careful with our reincarnation, with whatever we are doing and whatever we are saying. We know that the word has power. So it's very good to say beautiful things. But when you say things that hurt others, that negative energy, that negative vibration goes with your words. And as Chico said, everything that goes cannot come back. You cannot bring back something that you already did, but you can always construct a new future. So if you did something like that, if you did something that was not good and you feel ashamed of that, you cannot change your past, but you can construct a new future. You can ask for forgiveness, you can make amends, and you can construct something better. Always remember this. So when we continue reading the text, we see, like in the last paragraph here, in most cases, however, we use Lord's concessions in our egotistical thoughts. So this is exactly what I was talking about. You know, we leave our ego to become really important. We think we are really important. We think we can do amazing things, and sometimes we can step on others. And this is what we have to be careful. We have to be able to control ourselves, to don't say things, to don't do things that can hurt others. We have always to be watchful. with our words, so we don't hurt people. And it's so easy to hurt people. Nowadays, with emails, for example, it's very easy to hurt people because when you write something, it's very different when we are saying. The person reading can misinterpret whatever we are writing. So that's why when something is very important, it's always better for you to pick up the phone and talk to the person. And even better if you can really meet the person. And when you are face to face to someone, it's always so different. You know, the energy that you put on it. Even when it's something painful and difficult, it's better to be present than to be on the phone or just in a letter. We have to be aware of this. So then Emmanuel continues. Then we face the ill effects of our conduct when our body reaches the end of its journey. So when we discarnate, when our body is finished, our soul will be free, and then our soul will face everything we did, everything good and everything that's not that good. We'll face what we did. So that's why we have to be prepared. And we are spiritists, we have to be even more careful, because the ones who know a lot will be asked for. So if we know something is wrong, and sometimes we tell people a lot about that, but when no one is looking, we go and we do that. We do what we say to people not to do. And this is even worse because we know it. We understand. You know, Spiritism is very clear. It tells us the law of action and reaction, you know, cause and effect. Everything we do have a consequence. So when we do something good, there will be a consequence, a good consequence. When you do something bad, there will be a consequence. It's not really a punishment, but is an effect of what you did. So we have to be very careful of whatever we are doing. And then he continues, this leads us to the painful compulsion to return for a new beginning, where the principles of reincarnation will determine our values with precision. So this is very interesting. A painful compulsion is almost like we feel like obligated to come back. It's almost like you know, people say a lot, the criminal always return to the crime scene. If we can do a bad comparison of us as criminals, that thank God we are not that bad. But we always have our little issues that they need to be fixed, that need to be repaired. And they are in our minds. You know, when we all already did mistakes, and sometimes we choose to forget, but we don't forget. It is in our conscience. Sometimes we try to fight with our conscience, and we start, no, but I did that because that person did this, this, and this. So we try to find excuses for our own wrong actions. It's okay, you know, we are trying to avoid the reality, but our conscience, you cannot avoid this reality, because when we discarnate, we will be able to face it, and we will understand, I could have done differently. I could have been calmer. I could have answered in a more positive way, or I could just have removed myself from that situation, and the problem wouldn't escalate so much. So it's always in our conscience. Let me see if anybody wrote anything or asked anything here. So you sent the book for me. I really appreciate it. Yes, so very good. I'm glad you have this beautiful book. Flavia Alves, my dear, first time I see you here. This is awesome. Welcome from Staten Island. Yes, I miss you too. I miss you too. Saul Souza, um, laws of cause and effect once again has been performed. It will inevitably return to the performer. Exactly. Inevitably. Sunshine, welcome, Sunshine. So, and then Emmanuel gives us these beautiful examples that we like, wow, these examples really enlightened our way of understanding it. But one thing we have to understand, these are examples. It doesn't mean that every single nurse assistant was a doctor, a bad doctor in a past life, and now is a nurse assistant struggling to be able to perform her duties. It's not like that. These are just examples. And in Spiritism, we know there are thousands of possibilities. In Spiritism, we can never say this is happening because of this. Only Chico Xavier, that he was able to really see our past lives, to consult with Emmanuel, to understand the causes. Then he could say something a little bit deeper. But us, we just suppose, we just imagine. So Emmanuel is giving us some of the suppositions. So let's see the examples. And as each professional area has its various activities, so the judge who created mental reflexes of cruelty by persecuting innocent people usually returns to the same court in which he will be unjustly condemned to suffer the punishment he once inflicted upon his defenseless victims. So that's what I was saying in the beginning. Sometimes we see things and we're like, how is that possible? How that man was condemned? How that man spent 10 years in jail and then it was proven he was innocent? That's the point. That's exactly the point. He needed to spend that 10 years in jail for something that we don't know. We don't know, but God knows. And that's why he was in jail. And then we get like so desperate. I remember many years ago, before I had like a broader understanding, being really, really upset when something like that happened. Like, for example, this example of a man that spent 10 years in jail and he was innocent. He looked like the rapist, but he was not the man. So I used to be like, God, this is so terrible. This poor man, he lost 10 years of his life away from his family, and now he needs to reconstruct his life in such a difficult way. How is that possible? It's terrible. But then now I understand, nothing happens by a chance. Nothing happens by a chance. So if this terrible thing happened, it's because there was something that needed to be erased, that needed to be cleaned, that needed to be dealt with. And then I start feeling a little bit better. I'm like, it's okay. Sometimes it's very difficult for us to understand God's justice, but it is always just, always. Man's justice, sometimes it can be wrong, but God's justice is never wrong. So even when man's justice is wrong, there was something right to happen. So then I calm down and now I understand, if you want so much to prove something is right and you can't, it's okay. There is a purpose. You try the best you can. But if you can't, there is a purpose. We always know there is a purpose behind it. And then the second example, the example of the doctor, the derelict doctor. So derelict is negligent, is not a good doctor. Is a doctor that didn't exercise his profession in a really good way. So the derelict doctor returns to the hospital where he harmed as a simple nursing assistant who struggles and makes sacrifices to barely earn a living. So he was a bad doctor. He didn't exercise his profession in a proper way. He probably commit mistakes. He didn't do the best he could. And then he harmed the people. So in his next life, he will be attracted to medicine again. He is something that he connects with and he wants to do, but he will not be able to be a doctor. So he will be a nurse, and he will have to be the best nurse possible, even with all those struggles, to be able to overcome the problems from the past. And when, for example, let's take the case of a doctor. There are many, many wonderful doctors. You know, you are a doctor, you are helping people, you are saving lives. And you can always do a little bit more. For example, I'm taking the case of Brazil. So in Brazil, there are these doctors who perform surgeries, plastic surgeries. So they make people to look nicer, and it's wonderful. If you don't overdo, it's always nice. It's always nice. But they take their own time to dedicate, depending of the doctor, of course, but this one that I'm saying, he dedicates 1 day a month, 1 whole day a month, to perform surgeries for the poor people. All kinds of surgeries. And he does lots of, you know, when the people are born with the lips that are open, or when they don't have the top of their mouths, or when they have some kind of facial problem. So the whole group dedicates 1 whole day for the poor people. This is a blessing. This is a blessing that they are doing for the ones who can't afford paying. And this is, as I like to joke, is like little points. They are acquiring little good points. So if we all could do something like that, you know, we all have talents. So we might not have a talent with our career, that we cannot help somebody with whatever we do, but we can always do something for someone. So we all have gifts that we can help others. So we have to think, what could I do to help someone that needs? And dedicate a little bit of your time to do it. Practice charity. You know, people always connect charity with money. Yes, money can help so much. Like I was mentioning before, we could get some money and help this family in Brazil to move to another house that's not collapsing. But charity can be in every way, even in words, even talking to people that are distraught, people that are struggling, people that are facing difficulties. Even talking, you can practice charity. And if you can use some of your gifts to practice charity, even better. So then he continues. The rich farmer who took advantage of the humble employees who were provided by heaven to till his fields will return to the land he had deceitfully exploited as a poor laborer. So it's action and reaction, as we mentioned. So these are the examples. If we don't do well what we are doing now, we might come back in a position that's more difficult, in a position that we are going to be struggling more. But we will come back in more or less the same area, the same physical area, or the same type of job, and we will have to improve. I really love the book of Dante Alighieri, The Divine Comedy. It's an absolutely beautiful book, very thick, but you can also listen in audiobooks, and you can listen to it. And there is a part there that talks about hell, when he is brought to visit hell. And there are many levels, many different levels. And I can never forget when he goes to a very low level, very heavy, and he describes all the ambience, all the energy, the fluids, and how difficult it was even to breathe. And also what he was seeing. This reminds me so much the book Nosso Lar, that the description done so many years ago by Dante Alighieri is almost like redone in Nosso Lar, in Astral City. But anyway, so this part that I wanted to mention is that when he goes in a very heavy location and he sees people upside down in some things that reminds him like a cocoon, and they are buried upside down in this cocoon. And then he asks his angel, his guardian angel who brought him there to visit, and he asks, what is this? What this person did to be in such a terrible way? And then the angel, the spirit, describes to him, this man, he was a politician, and he misused the funds for the city, and he used for himself. He used to purchase things for himself. And then he is like in disbelief, and he's like, but this is really terrible. And he is upside down, like you can just imagine how he's suffering. And in this cocoon, he couldn't move. So just to imagine the situation, I was like shocked. But then the spirits continue. And he says, whenever you have a position in life that's like a public position, that you are managing funds that are not yours, funds of others, funds of the people because they pay taxes. So these funds are very special, and they have to be properly used. If you misuse that to use for yourself, the consequences are really, really heavy. So this, you know, when we think about the situation that's happening in Brazil right now, we feel very sorry for the people. It's very painful. And money is a very big danger. Money, power, beauty, we all know these are very dangerous tests. But this is something for us to think, like how dangerous it can be. And we should never say, oh, but I would never do it. No, don't say that. Never say never. We never know. We might not do it. Wonderful. But if we haven't been in that type of position, we don't know what would be able to happen. And it's very dangerous. And we have to be thankful to God every single day for whatever position we have, and pray every day for you to do the best you can. And if by any reason you are distracting a little bit, whoops, pay attention, please stop and come back again, because the spiritual consequences are really tough. And no money in this planet can pay for the pain one can suffer, one can go through after. So we don't want this. And if you see anyone going through this, please try to help. Give the Spirit's book, give the thought and life, give the gospel. Help this person, give a good word, help this person. And remember, help yourself too, because a lot of times we are so good to point fingers. Oh, you are doing wrong. Oh, you're doing wrong. But we don't pay attention that we can be doing wrong too. So we have to be careful with what we are doing. And just because we have to go to the gospel, let me see if anyone wrote or asked anything here. Laws of cause and effect. It's not by a chance I'm learning Spiritism in English. Yes, my dear, you're learning both. You're learning Spiritism and in English. So Flavia mentioned the law of cause and effect. Explain or clarify a little more why we have so many people with physical disabilities. Yes, with everything, every problem, Flavia, every single problem, not just the physical disabilities, but the mental disabilities. You know, Divaldo Franco always says that the autism, for example, is a mechanism of escape, that the spirit, he is trying to escape from the reality that he would have to face and the consequences of problems he created in the past, and then he returns as an autistic person, because he does not want to face that situation. So for that period of a life, that reincarnation, he will be like that, away from whatever he did, and then in a new opportunity he will be able to face it, and probably much better, because he had a lot of time to reflect in the things he did and think about how he will be able to be better in a next reincarnation. Yara, mwah! Yara, mother, my dear friend Freddy, welcome. So, you know, so many examples that Emmanuel gave us that really enlighten the example. So next time we see certain things, we will be thinking, as I told you before, it's not that this is that, but it's a possibility. It could be something like that. Also, like, you know, nowadays, for example, so many people, I have so many friends who want so badly to be mothers, and they can't. So we don't know why they can't, but it might have been like this case here. Women of high society that yield in vice and dissipation. So she will need to earn again the respectable title of marriage and motherhood. But as I said, this is not judging anyone, because I myself had a very, very hard time to get pregnant. Very hard time. And I tried so many times, and I only could get pregnant once. And thank you, God, for allowing me to be a mother. But we don't know what we did in the past to be going through such a difficult time. But we have to be blessed enough to be alive, to have this beautiful life. And if we can't have child of our own, if we could adopt, they would be the children of our hearts. And if you can't adopt, visit them. Our friend Carla Marquez, she is organizing this beautiful movement to visit the children in the hospital. That's another branch of a charitable action that's so important that we do in the Volunteers of Love. We can always bring some happiness. We can always bring some love wherever we go, whatever you do. And if you can, visit the nursing homes, visit hospitals, help the homeless. Everything is welcome. We are always doing our little tiny part, but we have to do it. We have to do it. And we have to help others to do it too. Because sometimes people feel, oh, I don't know how to do it. I'm afraid, or I don't know how to start anything. But if there is a little group together, everything is easier. You go with 1, 2, 3 friends. Everything is easier when we do things together with love. So please, please start practice your little charitable acts. And so the last paragraph I commented, I already mentioned in the beginning that the law that dictates all of this is our conscience. So my friends, our conscience is our boss. So let's do good. So we will feel good. When we discarnate, we will wake up and we will be feeling as good as we were here, and we will meeting our friends, and it's going to be a blessing to transfer from this physical life to our real life. That's the spiritual life. And we need to go to the gospel. We are studying we are in the introduction, and we just started the beautiful part, understanding the doctrine of Socrates and Plato. And last week we started the summary. So just a reminder, I love to say that because it's so powerful. So Socrates, he was born 469 years before Jesus Christ. Isn't that amazing? 469 years before Jesus Christ, who was born more than 2,000 years ago. So 2,500 years ago, this was written. And Kardec did a summary of the most important parts to tell us how similar it is to Spiritism. So, as we said, there are no coincidences. And every important thing that happens, like to be able to construct a skyscraper, you need to have a very solid foundation. And what Socrates and Plato did, they really did this foundation to be able to allow Jesus Christ to come, to continue the practice, to demonstrate what the Socrates and Plato were talking about. And then, nowadays, Spiritism, to talk more openly what Jesus couldn't tell us in that time. Nowadays, Spiritism can tell us, so we can understand. So, to the ones who have the gospel, we are in introduction, a summary of the doctrine of Socrates and Plato, number 5. So let's go. Number 5. After, let me just see who arrived here. So what's the page? Well, in my book is page 43, but is introduction, as I just said, the summary of the doctrine of Socrates, number 5. So maybe a page is different, but in my book is page 43. So, hey, Patrick, very good, my dear. Nice to see you. I'm really trying hard to go to give the lectures in July, okay? I'm trying my best. Hopefully, I will be able to go. Let's see. Yes, let's go to Charlotte also. So, Saul, did you find? Very good. So Patrick said, hi, Angela, fraternal hugs from Charlotte, North Carolina. Very good, Patrick. Thank you so much. So let's read number 5. After our death, the spirit, daemon, who had been assigned to us during life, leads us to a place where all those who must be taken to Hades are gathered in order to be judged. After having remained in Hades for the time required, souls are reconducted to this life for numerous long periods. So this is what Socrates said and Plato wrote. Because as Jesus, Socrates never wrote anything. But Plato, his best student, he wrote lots of his teachings. So just for you to understand, daemon is really spirit or guardian angel, depending on the context. And Hades can be this spiritual environment, the spiritual realm, the spiritual plane. And then comes the little comment from Kardec. This is the doctrine of guardian angels or protector spirits, and of successive reincarnations and after intervals of varying lengths in the errant state. And exactly that. So as he's saying, as Socrates is saying, we have, look, after our death, the spirit who had been assigned to us during life leads us to a place where all those must be taken to Hades. So it's almost like when we know that when our physical body dies, our spirit awakes, we will see our guardian angel. He was responsible for guiding us through all these incarnations. So we will see he or she. And here, Socrates says that he takes us to the spiritual plane where we will be until we come back again and come back again and again to different reincarnations. So that's exactly what Kardec is commenting. So number 6, daemons fill the space that separates the sky from the earth. They are the link that unites the great whole with itself. since divinity never enters into direct communication with human beings. It is by means of daemons that the gods relate to and converse with them, whether during the waking state or during sleep. And then comes Kardec's comments. The word daemon, which gave origin to demon, was not taken into evil sense during antiquity, as it's amongst the moderns, saying that nowadays when you say demon, is always something negative, it's always like something evil, something horrible. But in that time, daemon really meant a spirit, guardian angel, an entity. It didn't have this negative connection that it has nowadays. So it did not mean evil beings exclusively, but all spirits in general, among whom were highly evolved spirits called gods and less evolved spirits, demons per se, who communicated directly with humans. Spiritism also states that the spirits populate space, that a god only communicates with human beings through the intermediary of pure spirits, entrusted with transmitting the divine will, and that the spirits communicate with humans during the waking state and during sleep. Replace the word daemon with the word spirit, and you have the Spiritist doctrine. Replace with the word angel, and you have the Christian doctrine. So this is really beautiful. When you think Socrates was talking about this 2,500 years ago, it's amazing. It's like really a very, very enlightened spirit to be able to incarnate on earth in that time, in the time that was so rough, that we were really brutal people. And he was really a philosopher talking about these things. I can just put myself there in that time thinking, oh my God, what is he talking about? Because nowadays, when we talk about that, a lot of people cannot understand. A lot of people cannot understand. A lot of people, they don't understand life after the death of the physical body. You know, a lot of materialistic people, they really think when you die, that's it. There is nothing else. You disappear and you will, there are so many types, but there are the types that you disappear. There's the type that you will be united to some kind of conscience, and then you will come back again, but as a zero again, with no back experience. You have no background. You have no history. You start from scratch again. So just Socrates talking about this is really amazing. And he already understood the different levels of spirits. Spirits are very, very high level. They were called gods with S, because they believed in many gods. So many spirits that were more elevated, and the daimons that they were more or less like the normal spirits that could talk to most of the human beings. That's really super cool. Anything here? We are waiting for you. Yes, I will do my best, Patrick. I will try. So number 7. The constant preoccupation of philosophers, as understood by Socrates and Plato, is to take greater care of the soul and less care of this life, which is only an instant from the perspective of eternity. If the soul is immortal, would it not be wise to live with a view of eternity? Amazing. Both Christianity and Spiritism teach the same thing. So this is exactly what we understand. They understood that this physical life is only one life, and it will pass, and it passes really quickly. And I know people say, "Oh, but 100 years is so much; it's crazy." No, yes, nowadays mostly of the people can live up to 100 years, for example. But to whom can live an eternity, because we know the spirits are eternal, 100 years is absolutely nothing. And Socrates and Plato, they understood that. This is one life experience. When this passes, we'll have another one and another one and another one. And that's exactly why he decided that he was going to die for what he believed. He was condemned to death for something that the people could not understand. And then his friends, and then even his wife came to tell him, please, please, they are allowing you to escape. They paid the guard to open the door so you can run away and you will not die. And then Socrates said, but why would I do that? Why would I run to a city and trying to escape from this life? Whatever I'm doing here, I will do in whatever I go, because this is part of me. I will talk about it. I will question the thoughts of people. And I might be condemned again because people cannot understand me. So he had this understanding that he would prefer to die for whatever he knew was right than to escape for an illusion, for a temporary illusion. So I admire him so much, so much. And we still have time, so let's go to number 8. If the soul is immaterial, then after this life, it must go to a world that is equally invisible and immaterial. The same way that the body upon its decomposition returns to matter. It is important only to clearly distinguish the pure, truly immaterial soul, which, like a God, nourishes itself with knowledge and thought, from the soul that is to various degrees tainted by material impurities that hinder its ascendancy towards the divine, retaining it in places of its earthly journey. Then Kardec explains. Socrates and Plato, as one can see, understood perfectly the different degrees of the soul's dematerialization. They insist on the varieties of situations that result in its greater or lesser purity. What they said through intuition, Spiritism proves through the numerous examples it sets before us. So you can even check the book Heaven and Hell. So it's beautiful how Kardec says he's who Socrates and Plato said through intuition, because there were not nowadays that we have so many books that were psychographic by mediums that describe what happened what happened after this life. So in their time they did not have this. So they had an intuition. That's what would happen. So this level of dematerialization, that also happens to us. And we know that one day we will be enlightened spirits. We will be pure spirits like Jesus, for example. We don't know when. We don't know if it will take thousands, millions of years. We don't know. We don't know in which planet we will be living, but it will happen, because the law of progress will happen. We are always progressing. every single reincarnation we progress, even if a little bit. Or some spirits who are really lazy, they stay, what they say, stationary. They do not digress, because we cannot digress, but they do not progress. It's almost like they lost a incarnation. But most of us, we progress a little bit, intellectually or morally or both. The idea is really progressing together, intellectually and morally. So we can always progress. And every time we progress, we enlighten ourselves, we will be able to enlighten our perispirit. And we will start acquiring a little bit of light, a tiny little bit of light. And when we progress a lot, our perispirit will also be less dense, and we will have more light within ourselves. So this is really what he's talking about here. And then we have number 9, but it's already 10 o'clock, so we cannot read it. But it's super, super interesting. And if you had never read before the doctrine of Socrates and Plato, this little summary is so beautiful, because Kardec, with his unbelievable intelligence, he took all the points that really, really super connect to Spiritism and put together for us to be able to have this understanding, this enlightenment about this man who lived 500 years before Jesus Christ. So the gospel is always a blessing. That's why we can study it forever, forever and ever. Every time we read, we learn a little bit. So every time we read, we learn. So we are doing our progress, little by little, our progress. So this is awesome. So my friends, just to remind you, in 2 weeks, we will be back and we will be studying lesson 17 from the book Thought and Life. And we will pick up here in lesson in article number 9 from the doctrine of Socrates and Plato. So now let's do our final prayer so we can continue with this beautiful energy surrounding us wherever we are, and we can come back in 2 weeks, okay? Dear God, our brother Jesus, the enlightened spirits of Socrates, Plato, thank you so much. Thank you so much for your studies, for your words that penetrate our spirits and light our thoughts. Help us to understand. Help us to better ourselves. Thank you so much, our dear Emmanuel, who brought so many examples, so practical, so powerful, that really help us to understand what could be done wrong, so we will be able to avoid it. We will be able to be more careful with our reincarnation, with our thoughts, with our words, and with our actions. So please, at this moment, we would like to ask for this beautiful energy surrounding all of us to continue here and to be spread to all our friends who will be listening to this later on, so they can also benefit from it. They can feel happier, they can feel enlightened, and they can have this desire to continue studying and continue improving with all of us. And please help us to come back again and again and again, so we can improve together in this beautiful reunion. Thank you so much, and so be it. So my friends, thank you so much. It was awesome to have you here, and I hope to see you soon in 2 weeks with the chapter 16. Thank you so much, and have a great and blessed night. Bye-bye, everybody. See you soon.